Hey everybody, welcome to the Patty G Show. I'm your host, Patty G. This week we have a very exciting episode with Stan Levy of Sasso, a marketing creative agency designed to fit each and every client's needs and really elevate them to the next level regardless of what industry, what sector that they're in. Stan's approach to marketing is kind of a unique one in the sense he kind of figures out what you're about and really what makes you tick and make sure that he's a good fit with their agency and their team before they get the ball rolling. And we also dive into a little bit about his entrepreneurial success that has brought him to some new endeavors and expanded his reach as an entrepreneur. Y'all enjoy the show with Stan. And as always, we have some amazing partners that we use to do this show each and every week. We could not do it without them, y'all. Just simply the best in the area. Falaya Real Estate, Lakeman's Health Center, Horizon Financial Group, and Gage. Thank you again to our wonderful partners that bring you the Patty G Show each and every week. Y'all enjoy the show. I also didn't realize that Sweet Spot was a teaching equipment.
Yeah.
Like from what I had read and everything, it like was loosely touched about almost. It wasn't so centered focused.
It's a little bit. I mean, what happened, and I mean, I can certainly take you through the story, but I mean, the play that we saw was this gap in backyard sports and just really hey, I want to just go have fun in the backyard with either my kids or my kids having fun together with their friends or whatever. Naturally, the lightweight bat and some other things with it makes it almost it can be used as a training aid. There'll probably be more to come with that kind of front of it. And that's kind of a little bit of what's been used in the past. But what we saw more so was backyard's kind of forgotten about, this introductory sports. Hey, let's just go have fun in the backyard versus, hey, it's high level competitive, baseball, basketball, soccer, you name it or whatever. So that's kind of the void we're trying to fill.
Okay.
But yeah,
which makes sense.
There's a training component to some of them, as well. And then the pickle is a little bit different. That is a little more on the competitive side, not just, let me just go.
It's crazy how quickly pickle has
oh my gosh,
it's just exploded over the last 6-8 months, something like that.
Yeah It's really, I guess coming out of post COVID, people looking at things and what's there to do, and then somehow that just kind of started catching fire, and really over the last year or so, it really has.
Well, now we've got as of today, two pickleball courts. One's operational and one's in construction, right? Because Gordon and his group just bought the shed.
Yeah, and so we're helping them with that, with the branding and everything on that front.
That's exciting, man. Yeah. So, but to back up to Sasso, what was life like before Sasso, or was it always Sasso?
Yeah. So, I grew up. My dad was a principal or was a basketball coach and later a principal. My mom was a teacher, so it was always grades and discipline and athletics and drive and all that good stuff. So those are probably some things that rooted in me from a young age I didn't really realize. I was very involved with student council, student government and stuff like that. So there was a sales component of it, marketing component of it, I guess, and then came to LSU and majored in mass comm, and really always kind of liked the whole advertising marketing side of things. And then I spent some time out in LA working at Dreamworks and Ticketmaster. And that's probably where I kind of caught the bug.
Dreamworks job. Boy from Louisiana.
Yeah. No, it was. It's just one of those things. There was somebody there that was looking for kind of positions that kind of fit what I was doing. And look, it was like in the midst of school, tail end of school type of thing, to where they had something available, and really just opened my eyes. And I was more on the marketing and publicity side of the movies and the TV shows, and really trying to get that out there, and really how do you really craft those campaigns that get out to the world and get a lot of people to buy tickets and all that fun stuff. So, really super cool experience, and really helped to ground me in this whole world, that I somewhat live in today, in terms of how do you motivate people and move people to, being influenced by, marketing and messaging and all that fun stuff. So it was a great time. LA is a fun place, obviously. But yeah, rooted back in Baton Rouge, and made Baton Rouge home. And my wife, Kim, and our 4 kids, this has been home for 20 plus years, and it's great.
So coming back from LA, what was the play?
Yeah,
Why come back?
Great. Well, like I said, my wife Kim, girlfriend at the time, we were going to get married pretty soon. She was still finishing up at LSU, and I couldn't very well say, "Hey, you plan the wedding. I'm going to be out here living the good life." So, kind of started looking at, okay, what opportunities are there back, quote unquote, at home? Baton Rouge, New Orleans, in Louisiana, and had opportunities with a lot of the major ad agencies, media companies, and everything, and actually took a job at which is now iHeart. Back then, we went through probably 4 or 5 mergers, acquisitions to kind of become iHeart, but I was there for 12 years, and that really got my true start in terms of understanding the media landscape, the creative landscape, dealing with huge brands, dealing with big ad agencies, across the country. And I was fortunate when I was at iHeart. I could have moved to any market, had opportunities at other larger markets, but really always wanted to just remain in Baton Rouge, but had the ability to work with all these big clients and everything. And through a lot of those mergers, acquisitions, and things, I'll never forget, there was a technology that later became like the app iHeartRadio and stuff. But back then, it's called Thumbplay or something, and it was, it was one of those things. It was just one of those moments, because I was part of a team that a lot of times would, get first views at some of these things. How do these things work? Are they a good thing, bad thing? A lot of vertical categories we worked within. And they bought this company for like $40 million. And it was just when that digital social media landscape was really hitting. I was like, wow, things are moving so fast. I'm going to start my own agency, right? And it was like jumping out, the plane with no parachute. And I'm like, I'm going to go do this. And yeah.
So one sale, and you're just like,
well,
or was it just that caliber of a sale?
It was the just so many sea changes happening at that time with digital, with social media, and Facebook, and a lot of the things were still somewhat new and early. And you just saw, just clients, okay, whether they were big, based in New York or LA or here in Baton Rouge, they were really lost, right? How do I navigate all these changes that are happening? And that's where I kind of made the decision, okay, I feel like I can help these clients on a greater, deeper level, and, started my own agency. In the beginning, it was very much digital, social focused in terms of what we were helping them with. But quickly, hey, you understand traditional media, you understand creative, or I need help with this. And I was fortunate, built a great team, along the way of awesome people. A lot of them, been, on our team and with me for 10 plus years now. And we really started building, the agency and bringing on, people on the team to help these clients with all these things. So now we're more of a fully integrated agency that, certainly digital and social is a big driver, and the content creation and creative and media buying and all the fun things that you always hear about. At the heart of what we do is really help that brand, problem solve, right? They all come to us with some kind of challenge, some kind of problem, whether they want to grow, whether they're just now launching, whether they're, really trying to be the market leader, or, feel like their brand's not as in tune as it should be, or sales aren't, growing like they should be. So every client is different in terms of maybe what the challenge is. And we feel like, we're very much problem solvers and trying to create those solutions for them.
So jumping off into this,
Mm-hmm.
You came back for your wife, so I imagine there was a conversation had with her about, hey, I'm going to leave iHeart and go do my own thing.
Yeah,
What was that?
Oh man,
that dinner conversation like?
Right.
Saying, hey, we're leaving, we're starting all on our own.
Right.
Like
right.
you didn't come from an entrepreneurship family.
Right.
You came from a very structured
right
type of background.
Right.
What kind of like got the juice going to do this?
Yeah. So that conversation at the time, we had 3 small kids. Children, look, she's been 100% supportive. My whole family has, my parents and everybody, but, Kim was really behind me. And the crazy thing is, like, not too long after I made the jump, then she got pregnant with number 4. And I was like, holy crap, what am I doing here?
We got to really do well here.
Right. And so, it's been a journey, and man, success doesn't happen overnight. And it's a daily grind today, just putting in, all that needs to happen. to make things, what you really want them to become. And so didn't know where we were heading at the time in terms of, hey, I'm making this leap and everything. But she's been great, supportive, and, my kids and everybody, have been along for the journey.
So in leaving there,
Mm-hmm.
did you have a Rolodex of business? Did you have
Yeah.
some leads? Typically if somebody's leaving an organization, they've got
Right.
some
Right.
warm feelers out there, right?
Yeah. In hindsight, I really should have spent maybe more time building some of that. And I think I was always kind of in the moment with what I was doing, to where, I knew I had some relationships and had some inroads with people, but I never really tried to tee things up ahead of time. It was almost like a natural progression when I left, and because of the timing of it, and because of kind of the market landscape, like I was saying, with digital and social and everything, clients or, relationships I had just kind of started reaching out like, oh my goodness, I saw you are now doing this. Can you help me? And again, some of those clients have been with me, pretty much since then as well, to where we've been able to help them and grow them. And so it's you don't know what's going to happen until you kind of get into it, I guess.
Yeah. You could think 1 or 10 things is going to happen, but until you actually execute or you're actually taking that leap, it's anybody's game.
Welcome to the brand new Falaya mobile app. We took all the same tech that's helped hundreds of people sell their homes themselves and packed it into an easy-to-use app for your phone. When you download the Falaya mobile app on either the Apple or Android App Store, you'll immediately be able to see the power of this game-changing tool. From the seller's dashboard, you can navigate to all the information that you need. We intentionally separated everything into key groups, such as tasks to be completed, buyer leads for your listing, and contact information for everyone involved through closing. When you get an offer on your property, you can simply review and respond all within the app. No matter where you are in the world, you'll be able to monitor everything that's going on with your property from listed to sold. It's truly the power of Falaya in the palm of your hand. Download the app and see for yourself. Falaya, it's real estate reimagined.
Yeah, and for me, that entrepreneurial side that, I've always had this innate, probably entrepreneurial spirit, right? I know everybody kind of says that and you hear that, but it had been eaten at me for a number of years, even while I was at iHeart. But until you kind of go on the entrepreneurial journey and realize, holy crap, wait a minute, in my old job, I was doing these things. Now, I got to do everything, right? It is you're doing so many things that either, and I'm not talking about from the skill set of really what I got into in terms of marketing and doing this thing. I'm talking about, here's legal stuff and accounting stuff and all these other things, that you kind of get thrown into that, I think a lot of entrepreneurs don't really think about as they're going into that. They're just thinking about the shiny prize of I can go develop this thing, or I'm creating this thing. But, in a true, business, spirit of jumping in, you get lots of things you're thrown at, and you learn, along the way, or you find good people to surround you with, along the way, to help offset some of those things of what you're not really into, right? I didn't go start my own business to, do some of these other things that really don't have anything to do with the business, but that's part of, being in business.
That's part of being the entrepreneur, is that you've got to wear all the hats.
Right.
And in the early stage, you're wearing them all the time.
Right.
But it's almost as if, as of late, like the last decade or so, this persona of what an entrepreneur is just immediate success.
Yes.
Right? Via social media,
right,
via people in the public, and living these different lifestyles are they're showing that end result. Right.
Right.
There's maybe a handful of folks that are probably not performing as well on the platforms that are really showing the day in and day out, today the kitchen flooded or something, showing those things. It's not at the forefront of what an entrepreneur really is. Yeah. But at the end of the day, it's what you have to live.
It's what you have to live. No, you're right. And you're so right too. The narratives that people put out there in these personas or these things, are a lot of times not as glamorous. You're just seeing, like you're saying, the end results. You're not seeing all the work or all the failures that went into getting to that end result. And so, that's just kind of the world I guess we live in now. But yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like, I'm sure when you were initially starting Sasso, you had a couple of calls,
Mm-hmm.
but then once those got in a good rhythm, it's like, who do you call on next?
Right.
You know, or
Right.
that one time you probably got fired,
Yeah.
or you had to cold call and they told you no.
Yeah.
Like those
Yeah.
moments happen
Yeah.
every day.
Right.
But yet when we're seeing what is an image of an entrepreneur,
Right.
it is this lavish life, this successful life. And it's
Right.
like, that's not not everybody,
That's not everybody. No, you're right. It's it's interesting because, you know, when you get into it, you've got this vision in your head, and you know, and that's, I think, the stick to itness or whatever you want to call that people don't have, to where, man, you're gonna get some failures, you're gonna get beat up, you're gonna, you know, things are gonna happen along the way, and you know, battling your way through that, you know, is part of, you know, it's part of the job, and part of coming out on the other side with some success, that, you know, some people might not have the stomach for going into it, because they just thought it was this fancy, nice lifestyle, and you know, all the wins you see that come with that.
Right. So
Yeah.
you say you kind of go into it with this mindset and this vision drawn up.
Mm.
What was, I mean, to get terminology thrown into the conversation, what was your business plan for Sasso? Did you have one? Like, what was the strategy?
Yeah.
What was the vision of what Sasso was going to be?
Yeah. You know, I didn't have a formalized business plan, which, again, in retrospect, I probably wish I would have. But again, I know people both ways. They had great drawn out plans and people that had nothing, right? Or the napkin or whatever. And I feel like, you know, you've got different goals, right? And you've got different things you want to achieve, and you've got a way you're planning that the business will kind of start to take shape. But I always kind of stick to, man, if you're working hard, you're working smart, you're creating opportunities for yourself. There's things I came across, you know, or clients, or just opportunities, you know, in the lifespan of Sasso, that if I had not done these other three things to then get to that one opportunity, it would have never happened. So, you know, no business plan, I don't think, at least in my circumstance, if I would have really drawn it all out, it probably, you know, is 30% of what it is now necessary. You know, it's a lot of things that are different. I mean, fundamentally, there's a lot of things that are same. Yes, we're a marketing agency. Yes, we offer a variety of different services to ultimately, you know, help grow these brands and businesses. But, you know, the types of clients we're working with, the, you know, national scope and what we're working, and obviously, you know, COVID changed a lot, you know, in terms of the ability for people, both clients as well as employees, you know, in terms of remote, you know, having availability or the ability to work with clients way far off. Not that we didn't work with clients, you know, on different coasts or whatever before then, but now it's so much more commonplace. Somebody will pop on a Zoom or Teams or whatever, and you're going through stuff. That's not the travel that it used to be. That's not some of the things. Obviously, face-to-face is always best, but it's just a different world that we live in now, you know, post-COVID, in terms of the ability to do those kind of relationships.
So, and before that, you said you had clients on coast to coast.
Mm-hmm.
How were the interactions? How were the project managements in a pre-COVID world, pre-pandemic world?
Yeah.
If we can even remember back that far.
Yeah,
you know?
I feel like things probably moved a tick slower in that, you know, you were trying to really do scheduling and do things, and sure, there was in-person stuff and things like that. But now just the communication flow happens so much more instantaneously. Obviously, things, you know, Slacks of the world and things like that have also been created, and just opens up a whole more freer flow of communication back and forth with clients, with employees, you know, with anybody. And it just makes that level of interaction, you know, that much more seamless.
Yeah. I mean, that was one of the biggest things that came out on a positive note was, hey, you have to adopt to technology,
right?
Or you're going to get left behind.
Right. You're going to get left behind. Right. And we're fortunate in that even before COVID, you know, we were somewhat used to doing some things remotely or working with some clients, you know, that were far off or whatever. So when everything kind of happened, and then obviously coming out of it, you know, it hasn't been a huge overhaul. I mean, obviously it's a lot different, but you know, it's been a good, a good transition for us in that we didn't have to make wholesale change. We had kind of already had things like, Zoom and things like that kind of incorporated even a little bit before, just because we had to use video conferencing and things.
So when you kind of sit down with a client on the other coast, and let's say they're hiring you out, are they trying to accomplish a content creation or more of a content deployment when they come to Sasso?
Yeah, it's a little bit of both. And sometimes when I say a little bit of both, it could be one of each or both together, right? And it just kind of depends. We'll go and we'll do shoots and create content, in far off places. And we'll also have those clients that might have some stuff that just don't know how to deploy it, maybe most strategically, that will do it. And then sometimes we're doing the whole 360, doing the whole thing. So it just really depends of the scenario. And these clients are different in terms of, what their real scope is, what their real need is in terms of, their goals and what's their geography that they're really trying to move the needle. And obviously, clients that are digitally driven and they're e-com driven, they're selling to everybody everywhere, right? If it's a physical type of geographic piece, then we're honing in with some of that. So it just kind of depends.
This episode is proudly presented by Gage. Gage is a local company here in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. For over 40 years, Gage has provided businesses with the very best telecommunications, IT, and standby power services available. Gage has a variety of services, including Gage Cloud Voice. It is the last phone system your business will ever need. You need to give your business the ability to be accessible anytime, anywhere, and with Gage's cloud-based phone system, you'll be able to accomplish just that. Not only do they have Gage Cloud Voice, they have fully managed IT services that are proactive network monitoring, 24/7, 365, help desk, business continuity. They are there for you. What you're also going to need is some cybersecurity. Gage is there to safeguard your business from potential cyber threats, even when you aren't aware they exist. Gage also is power and leaders in standby generators. They are the #1 Cummins dealer on the Gulf Coast and provide generators to homes and businesses of any size so you can keep life going. Gage, better connected, a proud sponsor of the Patty G Show. And how are you balancing the variety of that, right? Because that's a big shift to go from one client that's very, like a restaurant, we get people in the door, to a product-based company like the one in front of us is we can sell wherever we want to sell.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I think one of our advantages is that, strategically, and I learned this kind of in my previous pre-Sasso life, before I had the agency when I was in media and stuff, I feel like some diversification of the types of industries we work in is really good because we're going to lend a lens to maybe your particular, category that you might not be thinking. Your industry, you're kind of in the forest, right? And you don't know that, what we saw over here in this completely different category, some insights and things that we can make applicable. Like we know enough certainly about your industry and we're knowledgeable in that, but here's some things that have worked in other places. And a lot of times that's refreshing for some of these clients because they haven't really thought in that light, or maybe they've been so locked into, we work with agencies that only specialize in my category. And, we certainly bring weight there within those categories, but I think it's those insights from those other categories that they might not have considered. We had a client a little while back. I said, look, we're going to, it was a totally different type of client. They were selling online, but they had a lot of other things. I was like, we're going to treat you like an e-commerce client because ultimately what I'm hearing from you is that what your real growth is. And so everything that we're doing in terms of how people are interacting with your brand, how they're looking at your products and services, et cetera, we need to kind of recalibrate how you're viewed from a client, standpoint, as well as the public standpoint. It's got to start kind of internally a little bit first so they can have the right things in place. And so there's things like that along the way that if we hadn't worked with some e-commerce brands, we wouldn't have had that perspective. And I think the light bulb went off for that client. Like, oh, wait a minute. You're right. We hadn't been looking at it like that. and that's really what we want, So you get some of that along the way.
Yeah, because to your point, they're so heavily invested in the day-to-day operations of the business. Yeah. They're so much focused on, I got to get that next sale, I got to do this next thing, that they don't spend enough time working on the business because it's too much in the business.
That's right. Yeah, that's a great way to put it. And bringing us on really is an extension of their team, to where we need to be embedded enough internally to understand all the moving parts. But we have that advantage in that, we are external, to where we're going to bring other ideas. We're going to bring other things that work well, that we've seen or had experience with in other categories and other wins, to where they're kind of getting the best of both worlds.
So, and speaking about that integration side, where is it that, I know marketing agencies can differ in how they interact with the clients, but where is it like, where's that Sasso fit? Is it like a total, fully encompassing marketing department, or is it, hey, let's integrate a little bit with your existing team?
Yeah.
Where's Sasso fit?
We do both, and it just really depends on, we're always really big on trying to cater to the client in terms of where is their need. We work with clients to where we are pretty much their marketing department, and they don't have anyone, or they've got a person, or it's a entrepreneur owner, and here's the team that's doing the marketing function, all the way to larger, companies and national brands that have full on hundreds of people in the marketing department. And we have a space within that, and a void that we fill, or a role that we fill. So it just kind of depends. But the great part to your point, is that just getting that clarity in the upfront in terms of the role they need us to play, or the role that we see us playing for them, and just making sure there's alignment. We don't want them to feel like we're over encroaching, what our space is. At the same time, we don't want them to feel like, I need more out of you. I really do need you to be the driver. We need to have those conversations and really understand what they're looking for. To also see if we're a match, right? We're not a match for every client. We've had to learn along the way, sometimes that's not the best fit for whatever reason. We're not the best fit, and so on. But yeah, that's an very important piece, that communication, and where do we really fit in.
I think that's an interesting remark that is so true in every industry, is that not everybody's a perfect fit, right? And so you could have, a dozen of the same type of business in front of you, and it's like, but where's the perfect fit? Because each client's going to be different in the way they communicate. It's going to be different in their style. I mean, people will pick photographers not based on the quality, but based on like the coloring that they do in the post. It's like, I like the color grading that you did there, and that's why I picked you. That's it. That's the only reason I picked you.
Yeah.
And so it's, how do you find that relationship that's going to marry up well, in the sense of, we're the right fit for this client.
That's right. Yeah. And we always want to provide value. So, if it's a situation where, we feel like we just can't provide the value they need, then maybe we're not the right fit. So yeah, you have to kind of analyze that, in the upfront, to figure out, where is the fit? Is there a fit? Is there not a fit?
So backing up a little bit to the team building part of Sasso, because in every organization, one of the most valuable resources you have is human capital, especially in something that's so service driven. What was that first interview like? with that employee number one,
Ooh, man, you're taking me back now. We've had some really great people along the way. I mean, we really have. You don't really know, I think, early on, you think you know what you're looking for, but really until you get into it, and you kind of really get your sea legs into it and really start to identify, because there's some misalignment, right? You think somebody's great, or maybe they're perfect for this certain role. And all of a sudden you get into it, and it's like, man, that's not even a role we needed. We hired for this role. So we really go into things, definitely hiring. Certainly, yes, there's skill set, there's certain talent that we need, but a lot of it is also just people-driven, personality-driven. Like, is this person a great fit for our team, right? For our culture, for where we're trying to take the agency. And a lot of times, we're not trying to force them into a certain role, but over time you can kind of see where, great, they were hired for this, but man, they're really excelling over in this area. We need to move them in this part of the agency, or this role within the agency. And that's worked great for us. We've had people that have come in a certain role that, 6 months into it, a year into it, really see what they're thriving, at, and really where they're getting fulfillment and enjoyment, as well as aligning that with our needs. And we've made shifts and things. But going back to your question, the first interview, it was actually great. With somebody that I had hired, and she, really checked all the boxes. Was with us for a number of years. She was great, and it was. I think it was a great hire.
Yeah, and those first interviews from a client and a employee standpoint are always interesting to me, because it's like that's the moment where it gets real.
Yeah, right.
That's the moment where it comes off the kitchen table.
Yeah,
it comes out of the house, and it's like, wait, this is not just something drawn on a napkin or even on the back of whatever. It's like, I'm now owning and operating a business.
Yeah. A lot of responsibility and a lot of
so much responsibility, because it goes from a team of one to now you've doubled your team size with your first hire.
Yeah, there you go. That's right.
So moving into like the developmental phase of Sasso, agencies offer a wide variety of approaches from figuring out how they can match up with the clients. So like, what is kind of Sasso's process in figuring out, are we going to be a good fit or not?
Yeah. Well, if a client reaches out to us, or we're pursuing a client, right? I mean, there's two different roles. A lot of times we might identify, wow, we'd love to work with this particular client, or we think we can help them. We've seen, where maybe they've needed some help in a certain area or whatever. More often than not, people are coming to us. It's just kind of that inbound, referrals, or they're finding us online or seeing our work or have heard about us. And it's great, but a lot of times we might not know much about them. So as we kind of sit down, kind of going through that process, trying to ask the right questions, trying to really understand, what's the vision they have of where they're trying to take their company, or what's their pain points, or what is it that they kind of sought us out, what do they feel like we can help with? And clients are great. I mean, they're always very, vocal in terms of what they feel like they need, right? And sometimes you have to kind of pull it out of them a little bit, but ultimately, if we're hearing from them of an area, in our wheelhouse, that we can jump in and really help grow that client, and achieve whatever those goals, or overcome the challenges they have, then it's a good fit, and again, multiple different industries that we work within, different types of services that we offer. And again, some clients we're offering and really doing everything for them. And then some clients, it's just certain things, just depending on the situation.
Yeah. So, I mean, and with that comes a lot of like specific task and project management.
Yeah.
What are some like great tools y'all have used over the years to manage that workflow? Because it's
a great point, man.
When you get stacked,
yeah,
it's a challenge. Like the bandwidth is just eaten up like that.
Yeah, it is. And, we're fortunate between our account and project teams, to really try to stay on top of that workflow, try to stay on top of the task and everything else. And look, we've been through a lot of them and have researched a lot of them. I don't think there's a perfect one out there. Okay. I'll say that to start with, but I mean, things like Basecamp, things like Workamajig, which is very agency centric. We've gone through those and others before. Teamwork is one we're working within right now. And it's kind of like you were talking about earlier. It's a people thing. It's a process thing. I mean, there's multiple components of it that have to work together to make it all work. And, we're not perfect by any means. I don't know if we'll ever perfect it. The platforms that we work within, there's always nuances. Oh man, if we had this a little bit different, or if it could do this, I don't know if we'll ever get to the perfect place, but we certainly, push it every day to try to do as great as we can.
Sounds like you have to develop one.
Oh, maybe so, man. That's another headache. I can't think about that, but yeah.
I mean, come on, you do website development, right?
Yeah.
You just got to develop some type of workflow software. It's the same thing, right?
Easy stuff.
Imagine taxiing on a plane looking toward the end of the runway. It seems so far away, it's even hard to see it. And that's what the concept of retirement probably felt like when you were in your 20s, 30s, and 40s, way far in the distance, not visible or even a concern. But as you turn 50, something happens. Retirement suddenly seems like something real, something not too far away. In your 50s, you are rolling down the runway. Retirement is getting closer and closer, faster and faster, weeks and months zipping by. But are you even ready for a successful takeoff to retirement? Fear not, there's still runway left. But the time is now. Time to make progress and time to get a plan. The Runway Decade will help you get organized, get energized, and give you the direction you need to take off to your desired retirement. The Runway Decade, building a pre-retirement flight plan in your 50s.
Has there ever been a point where the client demands just kind of get overwhelming, right? You know, like we've heard from people on the show where they'll be like, man, on a holiday weekend at 5 o'clock in the morning, I've got a call and it's like, man, this campaign needs to get changed. We got to scratch it all, start over. Has there ever come a point or a project you can think of where it's just like, that happens?
Yeah. You know, I don't know. I come from a very client-centric background in terms of like, man, we want to serve the client. You know, sure, are there requests that come in like, oh man, that's like way out of bounds, or man, there's no way we can pull that off. Like you're saying to me, the perfect scenario, like you said, you know, it is like, you know, the last minute that you can get something done before holiday weekend, and on and on and on. And, you know, sometimes we might be at the mercy of like, hey, it's a media schedule and the TV station shut down the logs, you know, 2 days ago. Like, we can't get them to change, right? We're calling in favors, and sometimes maybe we can, but I guess the point is that there's things that will come up all the time, but, you know, we're always receptive and trying to, all right, what can we do to try to make this happen? You know, that's very much in our DNA. But, you know, sometimes it's reality that hits, and it's like, man, that's just impossible. But we're certainly trying to vet every scenario first before we say, man, it's just not going to happen. But yeah, there's always things along the way.
Yeah, and we have the challenge to recognize, okay, this is where we're at in dealing with the client. They've got these demands. But then on the flip side, the client's like, this is my business. This is my baby. You know, it's like we need this change. We need this deliverable updated, because if not, it's going to convey the wrong message, etc. And it's a tightrope to walk almost.
Oh, it is. It is. And I think that's where, you know, the more analytic and data-driven we can be. So, you know, when we go to deploy campaigns, for instance, you know, we'll have multiple pieces of creative. We'll have multiple messaging and visuals and everything else. And really, you know, seeing that response in terms of what's working and what's not working, we're trying to take some of the gut work and guesswork out of these clients to where the numbers will help to show what's really performing. So it kind of lessens the burden of like, man, I really feel like we need to do X, Y, Z. You know, we're showing like, this is what's working, you know, or this isn't what working, and we do need to change, right? So, you know, I think that's just a human nature, you know, for all of us, right? Like, oh man, I just don't know if that's working, or my gut's telling me this. We're going to always try to bring as much analytical backing to that, to where somebody can say, okay, let me kind of look at how is it really performing, and help inform, yeah, we should change that, or we shouldn't change that. We can't always control the timing of it, right? It might be, you know, at that last hour that it needs to kind of happen. But we're at least trying to inform people on, here's the right moves to make, you know, whether it's good or, man, this really isn't working, and we need to kind of really evolve and flip, you know, what we're doing here.
Do you find that y'all are more like campaign driven, or more kind of just let's schedule something out, not necessarily with a direct campaign?
Yeah. Oh man, I hate to answer like the kind of both scenario again. Yeah. Again, some clients, it's an always on, right? There's always something they're driving out to the marketplace. Sometimes, you know, that is, you know, ongoing type stuff. Sometimes, you know, it might be tied very specific to campaigns. Again, when we're working on creative, there's certain aspects of what is that real call to action. Sometimes, hey, it's just a brand awareness. It is I want to get, you know, the brand out there and really tell my story and stuff. Sometimes it is very much a, hey, I need you to buy this thing at this time. You know, it's very transactional.
Right.
So, you know, we live a lot in both of those worlds. And, there's, again, some bleed over and crossover in terms of assets that we might be creating, for both, and deployment, of those assets. But, they're very distinct in terms of what are we really trying to get the outcome to be. And if it is just, longer term, we're trying to grow and grow and grow versus, hey, there's a narrow window and it is a holiday shopping period and we're trying to, move inventory for a certain client, or it's insurance renewal season and we're trying to, do something, on that front or whatever. We live a little bit in both worlds, which is good for us because, again, we take things that might work on a brand centric, play that we do, and we take things that work on a very, direct, kind of play that we do, and we see where's there, some crossover, what's working, and try to bring the best solutions forward.
Yeah, and I love it, and it's that like that juggling act, right? Because every client is so different.
Yeah.
There's not many things you can just cross apply between one client to the other.
Look, and that's the thing, and I think our team has had to kind of get conditioned to that over time. There's nothing that we do is really cookie cutter. Sure, we have processes. Sure, we had tried and true approaches and ways we do things. But at the end of the day, each client has their own sets of challenges, their own, market or industry or their landscape that they're kind of, up against right now. And there's nuances amongst all that. So you can't really just go with, here's kind of the box we're going to put you in. It just doesn't work like that, or at least not for us,
Right. So on the traditional versus digital side, how has the social media landscape really altered or has it?
Yeah.
The intercompany conversations that are had, from deployment strategies to content creation. What has that landscape done to how y'all deploy assets or even create assets?
Yeah. So first of all, back in the, pre kind of day, you might go into a shoot, a production, and like, man, we're trying to get this 30-second spot out of it, right? Or this, couple of spots or commercials or whatever. Now, when we're going into shoots, we're really mapping out everything and really maximizing the time we have at that shoot to get as much valuable content out of it. Now, sometimes, sure, it's a made-for-TV 30-second commercial, but, there's versions and multiple versions maybe that run on TV, but especially, in terms of social and digital, would all run there. So we'll go into these shoots and really just try to maximize the assets we're getting out of it, map it all out in terms of, whether it's a phased approach or what gets tested against one another and some of those things. But, the biggest thing is that you're really packing a lot in now, when you're going and again, from a planning side, a lot more organization, a lot more thinking through, a lot more coordinating, with the media team, whether that's traditional, digital, et cetera. What is that output? How are we working through and making sure that the creative and the media is all working together?
Yeah, you got to have that one cohesive message.
Yeah,
regardless of the platform.
Yeah, regardless of the platform, right?
You got to have X speaking to
right.
Instagram
right.
speaking to
right.
TikTok and all that.
And all of them have their nuances, and there's some stuff surely that can work across platforms. But I mean, even the ratio of the framing and stuff like that are different amongst all the platforms. So, and it sticks out, if you're not, and you're trying to fit everything in within how you're shooting it this one way, it just doesn't work quite like that, like it used to. So it's an ever moving target. We'll talk about today, and by the time this airs, it'll change.
It'll be totally different. Yeah. I mean, some other platform will come out, or you've got to realize that on these platforms, it's like, how do you make organic, consumable content that's not too ad driven?
Not too ad driven, no.
Like, how do you create a reel or something that's like a 30, 45 second bit that is not pushing,
right,
but is pushing?
It is pushing, right. And that's the tricky part, is because the platforms are trying to, lean towards nobody's going to see it unless you put dollars behind it, right? So how are you getting content, like you said? It feels natural and authentic and not too salesy, but at the same time, you want it to move the needle and do something for you. So that's always a fine balance. We go through that all the time. That's why a lot of times when we go and create this content, we're creating so many different versions of it, because once it starts getting out there, we gotta see what variances are working, and sometimes, it surprises you, right? I mean, you think, man, this was going to be kind of the winner, and it ends up not being. It's one of these other offshoots of variations that we created. But again, it goes back to, there's so much analytics and things that go into it. It's really helping to make, your business smarter. It's helping to make these company decision makers smarter if you're leveraging all these tools the right way.
So on the analytics side, are y'all deploying tools to capture just the paid spend, or is there some organic analytics y'all extrapolating as well?
It's both. So we build out these dashboards for clients, and we're pulling in all kind of sources, and in terms of how are we measuring and monitoring, all of these different things. And again, some clients, paid might be more important. Some it's organic. Some it's both. So we really want to kind of cover our basis in terms of what should we be looking at, what's important to them, what do we feel like is important that we've got eyes on.
So one of the questions I've always thought of and have had asked is, how do you market a marketing agency? How do you get the word out there about the fact that what you do is what you do,
So first of all, I always laugh because I know we don't take the time or put our kind of needs on that, where we probably need or should, which is like, we should be marketing ourselves. And we just get so consumed with client work, we don't put ourselves out there like we want to. We should be doing a lot more things, and we'll, try to prioritize some things at times and stuff. I mean, even a while back, even as simple, a website, right? We're way overdue for a website revamp. It took us so long to get to that, just because we were so busy with everything. Same thing, on the social front and running ads and stuff. We're fortunate, a lot of our business comes through people reaching out to us. So, hey, we're being great searchable on Google. Okay. They're finding us. Maybe they've seen, something we posted on social. Maybe they've seen some stuff that we've caught their attention, or obviously, the best thing is that, hey, it was a referral from somebody else that we did a great job for, or somebody that had worked with us that passed us along. But in terms of really promoting our brand and getting us out there, there's so many things like on my list that we just can't get to. Hopefully one day, we'll get a little more active with it, but we've just been fortunate to get a lot of business without really leaning heavily into promoting, the agency. But I'd like to, so hopefully soon.
Yeah, it's like on the flip side, being the CPA and the part-time gig, right?
Yeah.
Is like we have to have up-to-date returns for ourselves. Otherwise, we can't practice.
Oh gosh.
Like if we're behind, we cannot practice and sign returns.
Yeah.
But it's funny to see how like marketing agencies, every time I talk to them, like, guys, if I wouldn't have known like you from your clients, I wouldn't have known you.
You wouldn't have known.
Like,
right?
because, and I totally understand why. Like, I get the why. You're so into the clients and you're vested there. Yeah. But it's like, how do you market the market? You know?
No, you're right. I mean, we've even had people we brought on to our team, that's like, okay, they're going to really help just kind of be that internal, like really pushing, and getting Sasso out there. And you know what, 3 or 4 weeks in, they're pulled into, client work, and we kind of go on the back burner. But lots of ideas. If you start to see us out there more, you'll know, okay, great. He's
deploying it. I love it.
Jumping into the list, right?
Yeah.
The list that's been hanging there for a while.
Thank you to our wonderful sponsor, Lake Men's Health Center with Our Lady of the Lake Physicians Group. Guys, I know it's tough to get out and go to the doctor. I know it's challenging to find time in our busy days, but I promise you, signing up to be a part of this group with Dr. Curtis Chastain and Dr. Tyler Boudreau. You won't regret it for several reasons, but most of those being the fact of the time it saves, where you're able to get in on the same day, get that appointment done, and spend that time you need to talk with them about what your health goals and concerns are, as well as ensuring that the financial investments you have, you will be able to live out and see those come to fruition. So if you're an investing guy, you know all about and planning for the future and investing in the future. There's no other more important thing to invest in than your health. Make sure you go check them out. Our Lady of the Lake Physicians Group Men's Health Center, and tell them Patty G sent you.
I love it. So, but we've got some items here on the table. Sweet Spot.
Yeah.
What is it? Why is it here?
No. So there's certainly a story behind Sweet Spot, and part of it, look, in the seat I sit in at Sasso, and we've been fortunate to work with lots of great clients, lots of great brands, be exposed to a lot of things. Things will come up all the time. Sweet Spot was something that came up. Childhood friend Joe Lawrence, who was one of the co-founders of Marucci, and he and I, we've known each other since we were 10 years old, playing baseball and basketball and everything against one another. And he had got approached, and he had said, hey, we should do something together at some point. We looked at a couple different things, and he's very familiar with all we've done with Sasso and worked together in the past. And somebody, ex agent person they worked with, business dealings and stuff, had reached out to him. There was a founder of Sweet Spot that basically just created this awesome version. I mean, the easiest thing to say is like it's a better version of like a wiffle ball, bat and ball, except you can hit the ball like 300 feet. It feels like a real baseball ball and bat. It's all plastic. It's all safe. But man, in terms of like just going out there and just having a great time, and we looked at it and we're like, oh wow, this is interesting. It had some technology and everything in it, and we're like, I just don't know if that's the thing. And we kind of got more. And this guy, Dave Soderquist is his name. He grew up in a small farm town and played in the back. And look, he had huge success with the inline skate ultra wheels and hockey stuff, and partnered with Wayne Gretzky in the 80s and stuff. And he kind of created this as kind of his last kind of hurrah into things. And Joe and I started kind of get into it, and brought a couple other folks in. Curtis Cruz that created a lot of products for a number of companies out there, and Blair Barbier is actually on the financial side. Are you familiar with your end of things? And we kind of started getting into it, putting our heads together, and started really realizing and talking to retailers. I've been to Dick's Sporting Goods headquarters probably 6 times now over the last 18 months or so. And what we discovered was there was a real hole in the marketplace. It goes way beyond just a bat and ball. And what we saw is the ability to create products, to create a brand, to create a narrative and things around this introductory kind of the sports. You see golf clubs here, it's either up to this point, hey, here's the $20, $19 toy that lasts about 5 minutes, or I got to go buy my son or daughter, a $500 set of golf clubs, right?
Yeah.
And so there's no really kind of entry in between. And what we just saw is that there was a need for people, the whole travel ball, whether it's baseball, my kids are in basketball, soccer, you name it, there's so much pressure and just intensity, and there's really not the ability, man, I just want to go in the backyard and play with my kids, or I want to watch my kids have fun with other kids, or I just want me and my buddies, whether I'm in college or I'm 12 years old or I'm 40 or whatever, just go have a great time with some fun products. And that's what we really saw. And we felt like based on the research and everything else, the market had that need as well. And so we went in and we started creating these products. We started creating this brand. We've partnered with Dick's Sporting Goods. It's just recently launched into, 800 plus Dick's stores across the country. All the Dick's stores, you'll go and not just see Sweet Spot products. I mean, they've dedicated some real estate to us, signage and the whole 9 yards.
Oh, wow.
To where backyard sports, which is what we were kind of preaching, is now a thing. it hadn't really been a thing. I mean, you had kind of one-offs,
Right.
but you didn't really have a brand that was like, hey, backyard sports and just kind of having fun in the backyard. Like that's a category that's kind of been forgotten. And so that's what Sweet Spot is. We have a lot of other big things coming, with it. We have pickleball line as well, which is a little more. It is it's a lot of technology built into that as well, but it's certainly a little bit more competitive. It's not just in the backyard, obviously, but we just feel like that sweet spot that you feel, whether you were a kid and just used to go play and have fun in the backyard, with your buddies and hadn't really experienced that, or you've got your own kid and I just want to have some quality time, introduce them to sports, but not necessarily have to go and buy all the expensive stuff yet, because maybe either they're not into it or they're just not there yet in kind of their crescendo of what they want to get into. And that's kind of what we offer. So it's in Dick's across the country. It's in some other retailers. Obviously, it's a heavy e-com, direct-to-consumer play as well. So, yeah, we're excited. And obviously, I'm fortunate because Sasso, we are the brand arm in marketing, and really help to shepherd all this, which is what we do for, a lot of other clients as well. It just happens to be one that, it's getting out of the gates really fast, which is great.
Right. And like being in the position with Sasso has kind of given this insight into we can partner and you can be a strategic partner, right? So most entrepreneurs, they may come in and say, oh, I can offer a little bit of guidance, a little bit of advice, but you're like, wait, no, we can offer this whole arm of marketing to really get this brand out there.
Sure. And it just gives the ability, again, we work in a marketing arm for a lot of clients, with Sweet Spot, similar type of, scenario. It's just one in that, we probably have a little more say-so in some of the top-down approach and some of the strategies and some of, the moves that need to be made. And again, it's a big world out there, right? There's a lot of, brands, no matter what the industry is, whatever the category is, fighting for space. And we feel like, we can really use our minds to really help this, as well as other clients and brands be a winner. And this is getting out there and went through a whole relaunch, redevelopment of a lot of the products, obviously a rebrand, and recently launched it. And our Sasso team is awesome and really passionate about our clients, and this is certainly one that we feel strongly about, that everybody's really into.
I love it, man. I'm excited to see where they're going to take it.
Yeah. No, it's great. We've got, great investors behind the brand as well. So Elysian Park, which is the investment arm that owns the Dodgers and other things.
Very cool.
Yeah, they're our lead investor, as well as a lot of other, either ex-athletes or other business people and things. And, we've just been fortunate, to get this out. Out of the gate, and we'll see where it goes. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, and I'm here to watch it, man. So that's exciting.
Yeah.
So as we kind of start to wrap up the show, we have a set list of questions we'd like to ask everybody. Okay. First one being, what is something you did as a kid you wish you could still do today? That I'm going to challenge you on this one, because I'm going to say not sports related, because you've created this whole marketplace to bring that back.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, if we have to exclude the sports stuff, because just going out, having fun with your buddies, and
you brought
playing
that back now with Sweet Spot,
right? So I would say, besides that, I think, back in those early kind of childhood years, there was just it was just less complicated, right? I mean, there wasn't as many choices of like, great, I can, I can watch one thing, or I can watch 1,000 things, or there was no phones, there was nothing else. So I think just that pure enjoyment, between music, between, movies, between those things, the impact that it had on you as a kid, man, you can still quote lines, you can still remember specific things. And, we're so inundated today, because I've got 4 kids, I know. Like, man, there's a lot of options out there, right, that they're consuming, which is great. That's the world I live in now, right? And that we're part of that, putting those messages out there and stuff. Right. But, it was nice back in the day that you didn't really have all the noise, right? So I don't know if that's something you can bring back.
I
but if that's
love
an
it.
answer,
I love it.
That's an answer.
That is a very much an adequate answer because it's 100% true. In the life of an adult,
Right.
You're constantly pinged, you're constantly pulled in every direction,
Right.
whether it be from family or work.
Yeah.
You've just got all these different elements coming at you.
Yeah.
Whereas when you're a kid, it's like life is bliss.
Yeah.
You know, like there's
Yeah.
nothing.
It's a great way to put it.
You're gonna wake up and whatever you want to do that day, you're gonna do it.
No worries.
You know? Like I've got my little 2-year-old wakes up and like the first thing he wants is just like, Dad, I want a milk cup and I want light and I want to play with my toys. I'm like, you got it,
you
dude.
got
Like
it.
that's all that's waiting on your heart at this moment.
Right.
Is like those two things. I'm like, let's go.
Yeah.
Like whereas when you wake up as an adult, you're like, all right, here's my 100 list of things I've got to check off today.
That's right.
It's just you get caught up in the world and living
Yeah.
that we fail to kind of slow down and really take a breath and be like, all right, let's just relax for a moment.
Yeah. No, it's great point.
So what are 3 lessons you've kind of learned along the way? I mean, you've gone from working as an employee for a pretty significant corporation to building up a really successful practice in the media space to now on the other end as an investor into organizations that you're able to help extrapolate success from them and push them forward. Well, what are some lessons you've kind of gathered across your entrepreneurial journey?
No, it's a great question. I think, the first thing we might touched on a little bit earlier, but like success doesn't happen overnight, right?
100%.
The things that you see, like you're talking about on social and stuff, you just see kind of, the highlights and all the good. Well, there's so many things that have to happen along the way. And I think the second part of that is creating those opportunities, right? The daily grind. Like, man, if you just like let off the gas, some of those opportunities just don't happen, right? So I think, it doesn't happen overnight. Just kind of that daily hard work you have to put into, whatever your craft is, especially kind of in the world that, that I live in, it is, man, it's a high touch type of world. And then the other thing is I think, you just have to treat people, how you would want to be treated, but just treat people great,
Right.
Whether they're clients, employees, friends, family, I mean, you name it, you don't want to be that guy in the room that's the jerk, right? And so that's my philosophy in terms of like, just having that great rapport and relationships. And look, you might not always see eye to eye on stuff, certainly, but you just want to treat people with respect and have some good camaraderie and relationships with people. So those are probably, three things along the way I've learned.
Yeah, I know, 100%. All great things to live by, So what is something you love about Baton Rouge?
Good question. I think, you've always see Baton Rouge really kind of come together. And I'm talking about in good times and in bad times. I mean, you go out to LSU game or parade or whatever, and man, people are having fun and throwing down and just loving on each other and just, having a ball. And the flip side is that, man, when a disaster strikes or, there is something unfortunate that happens, again, they rally together, not in the same vein as, partying at the tailgate, but in a way that like, you can really see there's a connection among the people. And, look, I've gone a lot of places, been with people from other places and stuff. And I mean, I think that's the one thing that holds true to just the nature of, people's hearts here in Baton Rouge is that, they do really can kind of stick together in good and bad times and really, have that bond.
Yeah, no, it's so true. We see that each year, or hopefully not every year that we have we have disasters, but like in the bad times, it's kind of like when our goodness comes to light, where we're able to band together and really showcase who we are as a community.
Right.
So 100% with you there.
Right.
For the final question, what can I do to help you?
Oh man, hey, just keep putting the good word out there about Sasso. I mean, kind of like we were talking about earlier, we're only as good as our relationships and our reputation, and that means a lot. We always want to do great work for people. We're not always perfect, but anything you can do to help support, what we're doing is great. And look, more so, continue to have this platform for people. I think it's great to have entrepreneurs come on here to tell their story, to talk about the good and the bad they've learned along the way. You do a great job with it, and I think the more you continue having people come and sit on this couch and tell their story, everybody certainly benefits from hearing that.
Yeah,
so,
look,
thank you.
There's amazing power in storytelling and being able to relate in some way, shape, or form to somebody. So I just like to provide a little vessel to kind of make that happen.
You're doing awesome, man. It's great.
The serving platter of stories.
Great. No, you've done great. It's a great platform for people to come and really visit. So
thank you, man. I'm glad. Thank you for coming, taking the time, and sharing to us about Sasso and other things on the horizon, man. I'm excited to see it happen. All right here in the great state of Louisiana.
That's right.
Man.
That's right. I appreciate it.
So
Thanks.
Thank you so much, man. Really appreciate it. And thank you, everybody else, for watching or listening. We'll catch you on the next one. We'll be back here next week for the Patty G Show.